Welcome back to Aussie Med Tudes. Apologies for not having any videos in a while. I've unfortunately had a lot going on. For starters, I'm into second year med school now, which is a lot. I've also had a lot of medical things going on. I've moved houses. I got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu started off at the University of Sydney because they didn't previously have a club. So if you're interested in that, check out the wrestling club. They've now got BJJ classes. And did I mention also med school? I'm pretty set up now though, so hopefully I'll be getting a lot more videos out over the following couple months. I want to do a video on time management as well as a bit about moving between Melbourne and Sydney. But for today, I'm going to be covering how to prep for MMI stations. So those of you interested in getting into med, you've probably got interviews coming up. You're seeing all these courses, you're looking for advice on paging doctor hopefully, and you're wondering how best should I really be prepping for MMIs? Do I need to spend thousands of dollars on a course? Is there something I can read? Are there practice answers, practice questions? I'm going to go into how I prepared for interviews and what I recommend that you do as well. But remember, if you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment if there's a video that you want to see that I haven't already done, and that's it. Prepping for MMIs, what a beast. It's pretty stressful, but the first thing you should be doing is gathering information about the universities that you want to be interviewing at. Firstly, you want to know about their interview style because not all the universities do things the same. Some of them allow different times per station, some of them have panels, some of them have a portfolio, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for all of those things well ahead of time. Secondly, on the note of looking into universities, you also want to learn a bit about the university itself because that's going to come up in the interviews, even if they don't ask you. It's something that you can work into your answers, explain a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in this particular uni. The next thing that you should be doing is checking out Paging Doctor. If you've never been on the website before, it's a forum where a lot of medical students and as well doctors post information about things that are really useful to people like you that are interested in getting into med, as well as people in med, as well as people finishing their degree and graduating and getting into the medical field itself. So you can scour that website to get information about questions that have been asked in the past, how people approach them and how they answered them, how people prepare for MMIs as well, so the exact sort of thing you're looking at in this video, as well as other things about the experience of MMIs itself. Next, and this is the most important tip so far, gather a few people together. You can do it through Paging Doctor. You might already know people that are interested in doing MMIs, and start a group where you chat to each other and you practice answering questions back and forth. It's really important to practice with people that you're not comfortable with. People that are pretty much strangers is the best because that's going to emulate the experience of an MMI as close as possible. The other benefit of doing this is that you get to hear people's answers and you get to go, oh, I never really thought about answering it in that way, or I didn't consider these particular parts of the question. Maybe that's what that question's actually asking about. Or, and another thing that is really good is that you get to practice giving feedback to them and hear feedback from them as well. This is really good either way. In giving feedback, you go, this is what you did wrong, and it kind of makes me think maybe I might be doing the same thing, so I'll practice doing that a bit better myself. And when they give you feedback, they might have noticed things about yourself that you never would notice. But that does bring me to another really important tip. When you want to practice without a team, you need to be doing this with a video recorder. Don't just look in the mirror and practice saying something while maintaining eye contact. That is good because you're practicing the eye contact, but it's bad because you don't get to listen back or see other things that you were doing. Like right now, I can't see what I'm doing with my hands. I could be making the same gestures a million times and it could be really annoying. That sort of thing, when you watch the video back, you're able to tell that. The other thing that people sometimes do that isn't quite as good as a video recording is that they record their answers just with audio. And that again, sort of good because you get to listen back to what you've actually said and you get to go, oh, I was repeating things a bunch of times or blah, blah, blah. But the same problem there, you don't get to see what you're doing with your hands. You don't get to practice the eye contact necessarily, whereas right now I'm looking directly into my camera lens. That's the same as practicing eye contact when you actually need to speak to a person. You'd be surprised how many people find it difficult to speak while maintaining eye contact. That's something you can practice with a friend, but also something you can practice with those team members that I mentioned earlier. Just for a little anecdote, I remember when I first started recording some of my answers and watching them back, I thought I was being very professional, very refined, but actually it just came across as really boring and really unmotivated. I seemed like I was not passionate at all. I wasn't smiling. I thought I had a bit of a smile, but there was no smile. So definitely watch those back because huge things that you can work on, you'll pick up on. Another thing that I recommend is signing up for a course. Full disclosure, I do work for one of the companies that offer these courses now, so I'm not going to recommend any specific courses, but I work for the one that I went through I think it's a really good tool for several reasons. First off, if it's a course that offers mock interviews, that's going to mimic the MMI situation as close as possible, even better than meeting up with a few friends. Secondly, you get advice from people that have been through it successfully before. Usually not only have they gone through the interviews and managed to get into med school, but additionally, they've been seen by people that run these courses, people that are experienced with interviewing, and those people have said, yes, I want this person to come work for my company because I think they're going to be able to teach really well, they're going to pick up some things really well. So there's a little bit more of a benefit of getting feedback from that sort of person than just from necessarily a random person that you met on Paging Doctor. Not to say that people on Paging Doctor aren't necessarily good at giving advice, just there's that little bit of extra experience that could be there. The main downside with courses is cost. That's definitely the thing that pushes people away. And what I have to say about that, I like to save money, so I understand not wanting to spend potentially thousands of dollars on a course. The reason that I still suggest it, and what I taught myself as well 2 years ago going through the same thing, was that if I pay the money for this course and I get into med school, I'm not going to care that I spent however many dollars on a course. I'm just going to be happy I got into med school. That was definitely the case for me. But the other situation is maybe you pay this money for the course and you don't get into your first preference, or you don't get into med school. The way I see that situation, the way I told myself about it, is that probably the course didn't hurt you. You might not have been getting into med school anyway if you hadn't done the course. So in that situation, really, I would have been happy to still spend the money and give myself a better chance of getting in, as well as getting some experience that I can then take forward the next year, because I definitely wouldn't have been giving up just if I didn't get in the first time. Now, that said, if you can't afford the course, like money is tight for you, I know I had a bit of money because I was working full-time at that point in time, I can understand that you not only don't want to spend the money on the course, you just can't afford to spend money on the course. So what I say to that is it's still really useful to get together with a group of people. A lot of the advice we ended up giving to each other was very similar to a lot of the advice that I got throughout the MMI courses. That being said, I still thought it was worthwhile because you've got other people that are guaranteeing that information is good, and there were other things that they didn't mention. But point being, if you practice with a group, you're still getting a lot of useful feedback, you're still getting a lot of useful practice, as much practice as you can put in. So that's definitely something that everyone can be trying to pursue. If you live rurally, of course, you're going to have a tougher time trying to find other people in your area that might be interested in practicing. In that case, you can go to Skype, but I highly recommend, if you can, practice in person with people that you're not comfortable with. So not your family, not your friends, people that you don't know very well. If you're living in a place where you can't get in contact with other people in person that are going through the same thing, what I recommend is ask a family member or a friend to get somebody that you don't know to come and help interview you, because it's much harder talking to a stranger about things than it is a friend or a family member. For me, I practiced in a group of about 10 people, maybe more. We practiced once or twice a week quite early on because I didn't want to leave it up to chance. I wanted to make sure I got as much practice in as I could and I could be as good in those interviews as I could be. And we all ended up getting into a med school. I'm pretty sure most of us got into our first choice of med school as well. So it definitely pays off to get that experience. Okay, so those are all my main tips for prepping for the MMIs. All of that being said though, there are lots of different types of stations in MMIs. There are stations on public health concerns, Indigenous health, there are stations on ethics, especially if you're going to Sydney University. And so this would be an incredibly long video if I was to try and explain what's best for practicing for each of those different types of stations. That's another reason why those courses are good, because they usually have a component where they talk about all the different types of stations and how to prepare for them. I could make videos on each of them, but what I'd say instead is, if you're watching this video and you're wondering if you're on the right path, feel free to upload a short answer to a practice question. Make sure you pop the question up and I'll try and give you a bit of feedback, maybe 1 or 2 comments on what I thought watching it, something positive and something negative, so you've got something to work on and something to maintain. That being said, of course, there's going to be a lot more that I could say for any of these videos, but I'm going to try and keep it short so that you don't have too much to think about. As well, hopefully you're going to be practicing with other people and they're going to be able to give you a lot of useful advice as well. So that's pretty much all done for now. Thank you for watching. Again, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, leave a comment if there's a different type of video that you want me to make, and I'll see you next time.